Good morning. Many thanks for joining the webinar today. I think we'll just hang on a couple of seconds and just see if we have any additional people join us. In the meantime, I just, for those of you that don't know me, my name's Richard Bates. I'm Sales Director for EBS. From a housekeeping point of view, we are recording the session and it'll be made available afterwards. So if you do want to share it internally, you're more than welcome to. We've got Sam here today. He's joined with us from Draycir. Sam's going to talk through the Draycir data bridge, or the Excel data bridge module that they've had for the last 18 months, 2 years. So it's I think it's one of the best kept secrets, this module. So without further ado, I'll pass you over to Sam.
Thank you, Richard. Very nice introduction as always. Much appreciated. So yeah, hi everyone, and anyone watching this later on. I'm Sam Steer, so I'm going to be showing you the Excel Data Bridge product. And what we're going to do is we are going to just have a couple of minutes for a PowerPoint, very short, just introducing the product and some of the functions behind the product. And then we're going to take a dive in and we'll look at some sheets, see what we can do with those sheets. And then once we're done with that, we will then open it up to some questions. So if you've got any questions, please just type them in the messages and Richard can field those to me afterwards. And any other questions, my contact details will be up online on the webinar, so feel free to get in contact if you do have any further technical questions. So without further ado, I will just share my screen. And Richard, if you could just let me know that we can all see that, and I will
Yep, that's all good. We can see that here.
Excellent. So Excel Data Bridge, and we are Draycir. Now, we're the authors of the software. Who are we? Effectively, we are an ISV who has been working the Sage channel for around 19 years, almost 20 years now. You can see we've won multiple awards, have customers all over the world, and we're used by a very impressive 135,000 users currently are using our softwares. But the software we're here to talk about today is Excel Data Bridge. So what is Excel Data Bridge? Well, everyone knows Excel, and everyone, I'm sure at some point who uses Sage 200 has tried to use an Excel upload into Sage 200. And we built this product based off the back of how frustrating that process can be. So what we've done is we've built an Excel sheet that enters various different parts of Sage 200, and it has a live link to your Sage 200 data. You can post in bulk, you can post individual transactions. We can validate in Sage 200. Now, this is the key differentiator between what you can do in hours and what you can do with just the Sage ones. If you upload a sheet into Sage and there's an issue with it, Sage will just reject it, and you will have to scour potentially hundreds, potentially thousands of lines looking for that error. With ours, it will explain exactly what and where has gone wrong, so you can make that adjustment and then you can re-upload it. You don't need to be a Sage 200 user, so the licensing is completely separate to Sage 200, so you could have potentially salespeople being able to upload sales orders into the system using that software, or other areas of the company as well who potentially may not be Sage 200 users. Multi-company, so I have a sheet where we can post transactions between companies. You can work offline, so you take a snapshot effectively of your Sage 200 data as you open up the sheet, and if you go offline, you can still do all your edits, all your alterations, and then when you're back online, you can post it straight into Sage 200. And the most important bit is there is a full audit trail, so we can see exactly where that transaction, say, has come from. So it will let us know it's come from Excel Data Bridge or the user in Excel Data Bridge. So you don't just find random invoices or transactions that have entered your system. So what can we do in Excel Data Bridge? So these are currently what we have, and we have a lot more on the way. The roadmap for this is quite extensive. We're trying to do quite a lot with it at the minute. And if you see a sheet in today's demonstration and you think, well, that'd be great for me, but I could do with it doing this, this, and this, let us know. because we are always open to developing the product to make it more relevant for more people to be able to use. So you can see here, you know, we've got everything from adding a journal to receiving cash, to creating a sales order, to one that has been quite a interesting one in Sage 200 world is this stock creation and editing sheet, and we'll have a look at that one in a bit more detail, because earlier on in the year, you know, or the end of last year, Brexit hit, and all of a sudden everyone needed to add commodity codes and country of origin to their stock items, which they might not have previously had. So they had to do that in usually a very manual way, or you had to run SQL scripts, or, you know, do this, that, and the other. You know, if you need to edit stock, we can do that using our sheet. Brilliant. So I'm just going to jump in now to my virtual machine, and we will open up our first sheet. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with our sales order multi-line sheet. So key thing about this, any sort of invoice or sales order, purchase order creation sheet, you can do it as a multi-line or you can do it as a single line. It's completely up to you. The single line ones obviously only support one order at a time, whereas if you've got multiple sales orders you want to put in, you can use this multi-line Excel sheet. So you can see I've got some data already populated in here. We'll ignore that for just a moment. And if we look at the top, so everything in here is standard Excel as you know it currently. The only difference is along here we have a tab that says Excel Data Bridge. If we select that, we've now got lots of different options and things we can do within Sage 200. So I can design, I can validate my design. So if I don't want these columns in, as long as Sage doesn't require them as a mandatory field, we can add and remove any column you want. So Sage will definitely need your customer code, so we can't remove that, but it might not need the description, so you can get rid of that if you wanted to. This is my standard sheet. I also have an advanced sheet, which you can see now has more lines on it, more columns to fill in if you want to. You don't have to fill in every line, by the way, just the ones that are made mandatory by Sage 200. We can also use these browse functionalities, so we can browse to Sage 200. So if I wanted to look at a customer code, but I couldn't remember what that customer code was, we're not expecting you to have, you know, incredible memories. We can browse Sage 200, just right clicking, selecting the browse, and now it's going to pull up every single one of my customer accounts in here. So I could click a new one and it would overwrite this customer code. So you can do that for anywhere that's relevant within the software. So description, you could do it in there as well. We also have the option with this mapping browse. So if you have another Excel sheet that, say, a supplier sends you or a customer sends you, and they send you a massive Excel sheet every month with their sales orders on, we can map this sheet to that sheet, and then the data, when we refresh it, will just come across for you. So you won't actually have to key anything in here, and it will all be done for you with the mapping. So that's something we definitely could explore if it was necessary for you. So along here, we've just got, you know, some other bits that we don't need to worry about just now, but we can sync our data if we want to make sure we're using the most up-to-date data in Sage 200. We've got the option to work offline here as well. So if I know I'm going on the train, say I'm not going to have signal, work offline, you can do your bits. When you get back online, turn this back on, and then we can talk to Sage 200 again. We can select our company, so you can have this linked to multiple companies, so you could work in different companies if needed. And then finally, we've got the two main bits, our validating and our order creation. So you can just create the orders straight away if you wanted to without validating, and if it goes wrong, it will still tell you. But usually what we tend to say is validate them, make sure everything's okay, and then we will upload them into Sage 200. So you can see here, I've got my 3 orders for 2 different customers. And what I want to do is I want to validate these orders just to make sure that there's nothing wrong with them. So if I select this validate, what it's going to do now is going to spin around for a moment, and it's going to be talking to Sage 200 and the Excel Data Bridge product to make sure there's actually no issues with the data that we are trying to upload. It may take a little bit longer in my virtual machine because it is a virtual machine and they are a little bit slower than live servers that you're probably using to run your Sage 200 on. So it will just whirl around for a moment. And then when it's done, what we should see is in this status column, we should see some writing. So we've got pending now. So it's validated. We've now got the status of pending, which means everything's okay with it. So we could create the orders if we wanted to. But what I want to do is not do that, because one of the key points of this software is that it tells you what's wrong. So you can see now there's something wrong here. The customer code is incorrect. So let's validate again and make sure the software picks up on that. So what I'm hoping will happen while this is running around is we will get an error message. So yeah, we've got the pendings because these ones are all still okay. But in this column now, you can see here, customer code AB000 does not exist. So me as a user, if I just wipe that out, come into the customer code, and what I could either do is type it if I knew it, but I'm going to use my Excel data bridge browse, come into here, double select, and now we're into here. Brilliant. So once I'm happy with this, I can then create the order. So again, it's just going to whirl around, and you can see here it's processed that order, and we now have a sales order number. So 5150, 5151, and 5152. So now that's all sorted. That sales order has been processed in Sage 200. So what I'll do is just open this up, and hopefully Sage won't take too long to open up for me. So a couple of other bits around here is we can make these lines as many as you want. We just have to just keep inserting them. I've just done up to 27 just for demonstration purposes. So just for context, we do have some users, a site using this sales order one, and they get an order every month, which is a roughly 500 lines long. And they have mapped this sales order sheet to that Excel sheet that comes in from their customer, and they can upload a 500 line sales order in a matter of seconds. They come in, they validate it, make sure everything's okay, and then everything tends to be okay. If not, make the edits and then create the order, and it can take no more than 5 minutes, and it's really sped up their processes actually. So if I just come into Sage 200, let's just make sure those sales orders exist. So 5150 for Abbey Retail, yes. 5151 and 5152. So you can see here it's come from my admin user as well. If you had a specific name for your Excel data bridge users, it would show here. So it could say, you know, Excel data bridge user 1 or Excel data bridge Sam, say, depending on how you want to track that from an auditing point of view. Brilliant. So that's a sales order multi-line sheet. So let's have a look at some of the other sheets we can actually start digging into. So I think the stock one's always good to show. So I'm just going to get rid of all of these and we can have a look. So a couple of things we can do with stock sheet is we can create stock in here. So if you have lots of different stock items, you need to create in one go rather than doing it all in one place in Sage and, you know, doing one item, going through all those different columns and then doing the next item. What we can do is we can do multiple stock items in one place, and we just fill them out in here. Again, as long as we fill in the information Sage requires, everything is okay. You don't have to fill in all the information as long as Sage doesn't need it. So you can see here, if we follow it along, we've got loads of different stuff we can put in. What we can do is we can use batch traceable. So serial and batch traceability, we can add that in here as well if that is something you need. So typically food, chemical industries, you know, you need that kind of information, you can add it here and you can just select what it is. So this is the other thing we can do, as well as being able to drill into Sage to find stuff out. we can also have little drop down keys. So you can see I've got batch or serial traceability, and we've got like a little key below it, so we know exactly any user can come in and they know which one they would need to pick if BNS didn't make any sense to them. So we can do that per line if we needed to. If we move along and get out there, we can use our analysis codes, so we can add those in. That's fine. All of our nominal information. We've got our country of origin as well. So this is the interesting bit. So I mentioned earlier at the top of this about Brexit being a bit of a pain for a lot of companies when it came to stock issues, because they had to add countries of origin to lots of stock items. And you've still got to do it now. So if you are uploading multiple levels of stock all from one country, you can just do it in this way. We can add commodity codes as well. So moving along, we can have suppliers. We've got all this information that you would usually hold in Sage, and we can add it into here. And again, we can map this sheet to, if I click on here, we are able to map it to another Excel sheet. So if your supplier sends you a new Excel sheet full of new stock items or edits to your stock items, we can then map it and make those necessary amendments. So the other thing we can do with this one, we've got these two little arrows here, which are different to what we saw previously. So what we can do is we can download the stock and we can put a filter on it. You wouldn't want to probably download your whole stock list. So you could pick anything in here to differentiate your stock. So you might want to just pick everything country of origin, that's say China or the UK or US, and make a mass update because now it's coming from France or Belgium, say. Things like that. So you can just work out how you want to pull stock into the software. If you press this download stock button, it will then populate the whole sheet with all the stock item that is captured under that filter. You can then make the necessary tweaks and edits to the stock, and then you can re-upload them with the validate and the run option, so they then hit Sage 200. If all of this information is a bit much, you can just use the non-serial and batch stock option. So there's less rows and columns in here, and you can just come in and do it from a non-serial and batch traceability point of view. Okay, so this is a really popular sheet at the moment because a lot of people do have stock issues, and a lot of people are using this sheet just to actually tidy up stock more than anything as well. So I'm sure if you've been on Sage 200 for maybe like 4, 5, 6, 10 years, whatever it may be, you've probably got a lot of stock that you don't use anymore. You may have stock that you've just got random stock lying around that you don't potentially need, or it needs a tidy up. People are using this sheet now to download their stock into here, and they're going through tidying it up and re-uploading it because it's a lot quicker. It's a lot quicker and a lot easier than doing it one by one in Sage 200. So you can actually make products inactive from here as well, which is a huge thing. So that's the stock sheet. And I will now move on to our nominals, because this is another very popular sheet, uploading of journals, to Sage 200. So we've got a couple of options on our nominals, our journals on the Nominal Ledger. We can use different types of journal type. So we have single, reversing, recurring, or previous. So a lot of people, you can see here, when we've got recurring, we get the option to set the recurral date. So it will just upload the journal on these dates that it recurs on. For this one, you can see we've got singles, and we've got, if it was a reversing journal, we would have to put the reversing dates in here as well. We've got a narrative that we can apply. So the narrative tends to come from the nominal code, but you can override it. You don't have to go with what the nominal code tends to say. If we had cost centers, departments, we could do that, add those in. We get the drop down on our tax type as well. So everything's in here that you need really to do these journal entries. In my example, I've got these, so it's all for vehicles and different bank accounts. Anything you may need, it's just good to have a think about what are you currently doing with your journals, and would this process speed it up if you need to upload multiple journals in a month. So again, I've got all these, and we differentiate them using the letters, so ID. So you can see I've got two journals here. They're both grouped by the A, so we know they're meant to be together. Likewise with the B's, C's, and now the D's. So I can validate or I can create them. I can also use this really helpful little reverse values function. So if you've done everything the wrong way around, which, you know, doing journals, some people you tend to do every now and again, you can just press that button and it reverses the credit and the debit. So it will do that for you rather than going, oh, I've got to do everything the other way around now. Just press reverse values and it will do it for you. So we've got a lot of love for this sheet at the minute. You know, it is improving the time it takes to upload journals into Sage 200 as well. And it does seem to be a very popular one because most people using Sage 200 do upload a fair amount of journals over the course of a month. Brilliant. So I won't create those for now. We don't need those going into Sage. What I do want to show you from a journal point of view is this sheet. So this sheet is based on salaries. So this comes as part of the journal sheet, but it's one we've created specifically with salaries in mind. So you can see we've got a narrative. We can add any other info in here, and it looks a lot more compact because salaries don't need to be as in depth in this sheet. So we've just got our codes, cost centers, any narrative, and then we've got our credit and debit. And this is just one, you know, if you do have a very simple journal going in, you can use it. It doesn't have to be for salaries. It could be for anything. We've just found most people who do salary journals really, really like this because it saves them a lot of work at the sort of last week of the month. They can just do it in this way. So you can do that. That's not a problem. And again, we just upload it and validate from here. We can reverse the values if necessary. So again, we can, the status is one, the validation, all the others we don't need unless we've probably done something wrong if we're reversing it. And then we can just change the narrative to whatever we want in here. Brilliant. Okay. So a couple more just to look at. Firstly, we'll look at sales ledger invoices. So if you don't do sales orders, that sheet may not be applicable to you, but the sales ledger invoice sheet may. So you can do it exactly the same way. I'm kind of feel like I'm flogging a dead horse here because it is all very simple and easy to use because we've made all the sheets look the same, feel the same. It's just the info that changes. And the thing is, we've tried to make it look and keep with the Excel theme because everyone knows Excel. Everyone in finance has worked with Excel at some point in their life. So why deviate from that? Let's keep it as easy to use as possible. So you can see on my sales ledgers, it's exactly the same. I've got my customer codes. I've got my invoice, whether it's an invoice or a credit, so I or C. Exchange rate. So you can see here, I've got an exchange rate option. I've got my values, any discounts, etc. If they're for a project, we can actually assign a project code to them from here as well. So if you do use project accounting, that is something we can look at. We have our narrative and everything else you may need from a sales ledger invoice. So again, it's just a case of validating and creating that invoice. Now, let me just open this up. So we have, as you can see, loads of different sheets in here. What it may be worth is I've just kind of given you a whistle-stop tour of just some of the most popular ones. But if you look at this sheet and you think, you know, oh, I'd like to see that one in some decent detail, then, you know, contact the chaps, Richard or Darren at EBS, and we can look into some of these in a lot more detail. Like I said, they do mainly do the same thing. You can validate, you can create everything, and it all links into Sage 200. And we've designed this to just be a really easy and quick tool to use. So hopefully that sort of opens some eyes to people. Some of the other, just to give you an idea, some of the other stuff we can do, just because it's not on the name doesn't mean we can't do it. But the purchase ledger invoices, you know, that's effectively an expense at the end of the day. So if you don't have any expense in software, you can still do this, and you can capture photos, receipts, whatever it may be, and you can use this. We've already got it set up for expenses here, and it comes in here. So you can give this to your traveling salespeople, or if someone's got to go out for the week, they can use this Excel sheet and just pop in all their expenses under different types. So we add these as types here. And they can then upload this back into Sage 200 for you to then either maybe authorize or to pay out on. So yeah, we've got loads of sheets and loads of possibilities actually, and it's really interesting because people will buy a sheet and they will use it in a completely different way to every other customer before them, and they will find a new way of working with it. And I find that a really interesting possibility for when you start working with these various Excel sheets. So if I just pull this up, so these are the sheets we've currently got, and like I said, we are working on more. So if there's anything you think, if I could put that info into Excel and upload it into Sage, it would save me hours and hours and hours of my time, then let us know, because we will happily work with you to enable that functionality. But like I said, any other sheets you do want to see in a lot more detail, and we'll go through some more examples, please do let Richard and Darren know, and we can get a larger session, just one-on-one, and we can go through it in a lot more detail. Perfect. Without further ado, I will hand back over to Richard for any questions.
Thank you very much, Sam. Really useful, and as you can see, really good module there, and really useful just for getting data in. I guess really, yeah, as you say, opening the floor to questions. We were asked one question prior to the session. This is somebody that wanted a copy of the recording, couldn't actually attend today, but they were just asking around Sage 200 standard online, and whether it can be used with that, because I know sometimes there is limitations with add-on products for Sage 200 standard.
Yeah, definitely. So at this moment, as we stand today, we can't, but we have been working on it for a number of months, and hopefully within the first quarter of the new year, we will have this up and ready to go. We are focusing on the most popular sheets first, and then we're going to bring through all the rest as the year progresses, but there will be roughly five to 8 sheets when we are ready to go, sort of early next year.
Brilliant stuff. Yeah. And then the other question is, we've still got we've got a number of customers that use the projects module. So can it be used for that? For example, like creating a project?
Yeah, exactly. So I've put 13 functions available, and more on the way. I'd love to be able to put 14, but the project that we've created is days away from being released for sale. We've got a couple of beta sites using it in a minute, and that is exactly what they're doing. They are creating projects either from scratch, or they're uploading dummy projects that they've got saved in Sage 200 and just editing those to make them fit the new project. And they're also using it to edit existing projects as well, or multiple projects at the same time. A lot of the other sheets, like the purchase ledger invoices, and you saw in the sales ledger invoices, will all link into projects as well, so you can nominate projects within those sheets to assign purchase invoices or sales invoices to as well. Brilliant,
really useful. Not had any more questions coming through, and we're bang on time, exactly 12 o'clock. So well done, Sam, and thank you very much. We'll obviously, any questions, feel free to send them over to myself or Darren or anybody else at EBS. And I know, Sam, you're always welcome to a good phone call and a couple of tricky questions. But we'll leave it there, and thank you ever so much for everybody that's attended, and speak to you soon.
No worries. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.